I'm going to be speaking about ownership and funding. The first bit I looked at was public services. In public services, I was looking at like what are public services and how they're funded. I found BBC was the main one in the UK, and they're public service because they broadcast to the general public. Also, they have to provide content for majority of the public as well. The person who made the BBC or founded the BBC, Lord Reith, he also stated different things that he thought the BBC should do, such as broadcasting art to the working class, teaching the population in school, informing and diverting unpaid female labour in the home, covering nationwide events such as sport and news, also addressing religious differences. As the BBC is a public service, they must stay by certain restrictions. So they must broadcast films and TV that educate, entertain, and inform the public. The next thing I looked at was private, commercial, and corporate ownership. Private ownership is when a company or property is owned by a private individual or an organisation, compared to obviously being owned by the government or a public body. Corporate ownership is one of three ways of owning a business. The other two ways is proprietorship and partnership. Commercial ownership is usually like a sister company to the main one, and this is the company that deals with all the financial side of the entire company. For example, if the BBC would have a company which would sell platforms or get sponsorships, and so they can fund. The next thing I looked at was independent companies. I wanted to find out if there is any independent companies, and also how they're funded. I found two independent companies in the UK. One is called Blast Films and one is called B4 Films. Blast Films has been involved in quite a lot of programs, such as 999, What's Your Emergency, and Supervet, which are normally on Channel 4. On the other hand, B4 Films have been involved in programs such as the History Channel, BBC Alba, and Food Television. The independent media companies are usually financially supported by investors or the government. Investors obviously means that they can control what they produce and what they create. If the government funds them, it's usually so they can boost up the market of media in that country. The next thing I looked at was global companies. I looked at the biggest, one of the biggest media companies I knew was Warner Bros. And I wanted to see what TV programs and films they've created. TV programs they've created are TV programs such as Friends, The Flash, The Big Bang. The films they've created: Gravity, Batman vs Superman, Dawn of Justice, Suicide Squad, and Goodfellas. The next thing I looked at was horizontal integration. Horizontal integration is when a company buys another company and also merges as one. Usually when they buy them, there's a contract, and usually there's buyouts within them, so the company can pay out what they need to and become an independent company. The advantages of horizontal integration is obviously they can share the costs of the business. Also, they can be more efficient with their time. The disadvantages is usually there's a loss of jobs because the business the business doesn't need as many employees because they're merging. And the next thing I looked at was vertical integration. Vertical integration is when a company gets bought out by another company, which is normally in the same production process. For example, if a press company was buying another company, if they bought another press company, that would be vertical integration. The advantages of vertical integration is there's more coordination between the businesses. Also, profit margins can be cut, which means obviously cheaper supplies. The disadvantages of vertical integration is there's usually less flexibility within the company. Also, there's lower stimulus because there's not as much competition. The next thing I looked at was a monopoly in media. And a monopoly is usually when a business or a person controls a specific market. For example, News Corporation, which is a global company based in America, which owns pretty much a massive chunk of the media market. They own like Fox News, all the Fox companies, Sky, Blue Sky. So they own quite a lot. News Corporation is also known as a conglomerate because they own loads of different businesses in the media industry. I want to see what license fees and how you paid for them, how you get fined and what it was kind of like. With license fee, it's usually for the BBC because you pay a certain fee each year for having the use of a TV, and this license fee funds the BBC, and that's why you don't usually get adverts because they don't need to be funded by adverts because they got the TV license. If you don't pay your fee and you get caught, you can get fined up to £1,000 in the UK. I also, if you looked in my presentation, I linked a YouTube video of how the government used to find out of people who had TV licenses and all that. And the next thing I looked at was subscriptions. What I found out about subscriptions is usually they're all online. So the main ones, obviously Netflix, Amazon Prime, Now TV, which is obviously you pay a certain amount each month or each 3 months, however long, and you get to use the app or the website or the services. Usually you can use the same account on different devices, such as if you want to have one on your tablet, your PC and your phone, you can do that, but obviously it's normally restricted to about 4. Usually the subscription companies, the advertisements they display also how they get funded. Pay-per-view is obviously when you pay for it's a one-off cost, and you get to use watch TV or film, usually a sports event or something like that, and you pay for it, and then when the event comes around, you can use it for that certain amount of time, and after that it's gone. But also they get the TV providers who usually do it, they get obviously the money from advertisements as well. Usually there's massive advertisements because not all the time pay-per-view can pay for all the costs. The next thing I looked at was sponsorships. What I found about sponsorships is it's usually with TV programs. For example, Love Island on ITV, Superdrug sponsored them, and each advert there would always be just before the show and at the end of the break, there was always it saying Superdrug sponsors Love Island. Also, it's normally at the start and the end of the program as well. Advertisement in general for TV and film are quite separate. So, for TV, advertisement is normally a way of them actually funding the TV programs and channels. But for film, because normally it's funded, the whole film's usually funded right at the start. Film would use advertisement to promote the film, and also TVs would probably benefit from this. Product placement is also when a known product is used in a TV program or film. It's a quite good way of advertising, because if someone sees like a Beats headphones when a male or female's in the gym, some people will be like, oh well, Beats headphones is the thing to get, so they'll go and get that. So obviously the TV program or the film can get money from that. But on the other hand, there is like legal issues with it. So if the program or film don't consent, if the company doesn't consent that product in there, they can obviously sue you. But there's like ways of getting around it, and one of the ways is coming up with products that are pretty similar, because obviously it's not the exact branded product, but it's kind of close that some people understand it. For example, if you had Coca-Cola, if you just put cola and it was all red and stuff like that, people would be like, oh, that's probably just meant to look like Coca-Cola, but it's just cola, so they can't get in trouble for that. The way I've seen if there is product placement before or in the film is usually before the film or program. It's like a massive P at the start of it to show that there's product placement within it. The last couple ones, private capital. I found out private capital is when an individual investor funds privately owned businesses. Also, the public can not see the equity of the company. Obviously, some like individuals would do this, so that is much more private. It's not everybody has to know about what they're doing, kind of thing, which a lot of businesses obviously do. The next thing I looked at, or the final thing I looked at, was development funds, and development funds are quite interesting. And what I found out what development funds are is when a manufacturer, brand, partners or distributors make funds available that then a company can sell, which will create local attention for the brand. Thank you for listening to me. That's my presentation finished.